Say rolling around, sitting on doves, can't lie, I was high on shrubs.
So topical back with another video. I'm Strange Wang, he is Nate. Today we're doing top 5 underdog movies because of Gran Turismo. It's an underdog story based on a video game, based on real life. But it's an underdog story nonetheless, so we're doing top 5 underdog stories. He's going to tell you how to do our top 5s, and then we're going to get into them.
He's going to start his 5 and 4. I'll give my 5 and 4, 3, 2, 3, 2. Then we trade off number 1s. We also have something called the Zemeckis rule, which just means if we both have the same movie on our list, but one person has it 2 spots or higher, we just talk about it once.
Personally, for my list, we talked about this beforehand, you have the same principle. Sports movies, underdog stories go hand in hand like eggs and cakes.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a saying, but
it's not. But most cakes have eggs in them.
Everyone gets the point.
But really, who the hell talks like that?
So limit ourselves to 3 sports movies. So, or just be 5 sports movies. So number 5 for me is going to be Tetris, because he went over to Russia during the Cold War to try and buy a fucking video game, and basically his life depended on it.
Interesting. He's
broke, he's away from his family, legally he can't do this, just things keep coming up and coming up and coming up and coming up, making it impossible for him to get the rights to Tetris so he can have this huge deal, provide for his family, because if he does get it, it's going to change his life forever. And we all know the story of Tetris because it's a fucking phenomenon now. But how did he get to be that? Well, it started in Russia, and Russians are very strict about what goes out into the world created by them. So just seeing this guy getting beat down by everybody and their mother to finally securing the rights is just a very heartwarming story, and it's easily, the investment in this movie is so easy to get behind the dude. So you want him and his kids to eat, and his wife.
Yeah.
It's always good when you throw the kids in there. Number 4 for me is going to be Just Mercy.
It's my number 3.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I don't even know if you've seen this film or not.
It's a great movie.
That's incredible. You have... See, this was another one where I was like, I was like, lawyers, courtroom dramas, they're all like, okay. There's some underdog stories in there. Trial of Chicago 7 came to mind. But it was like, alright, this has way more against them than Trial of Chicago 7. A Few Good Men, I was like, it's kind of a reach. But I could pass it.
Yeah, I don't really see that as an underdog story, though.
Yeah.
That's a reach!
That's why I was like...
Or Trial of Chicago 7. I mean, they are...
Well, no one takes them seriously.
Underdog. But yeah, right. And they also still... Most of them lost.
Yeah.
So, like...
So, I cut those. And then I was like, A Time to Kill. And then A Time to Kill came Just Mercy. And I was like... Not the same movie, but a lot of similarities. I went with Just Mercy because I do believe it's the better movie.
Yeah.
Clearly! No debating!
Michael B. Jordan, Jamie Foxx, and Miss Marvel. I forgot her name. Brie Larson, right?
Oh, Captain Marvel. Yeah.
Yeah, her too.
Yeah, Brie Larson.
They fight Southern racism in the courtroom to try and get Jamie Foxx acquitted for the crime. And Jamie Foxx just puts on a fucking acting clinic in this movie.
He really does.
Underrated.
Yeah.
From the only thing I didn't like about this movie is Michael B. Jordan literally was just like, yeah, I'm from 2023 and I'm not changing how I look to be in this movie.
Yeah.
And that was a little distracting. But everything else in this movie is perfect. It's just the things that's in their way pisses you off as an audience member.
Yeah.
And it makes you want to root for them more. And investment like that is hard to come by a lot of times. But in underdog stories, it's the key essential element to the film. And in this case, it's the best part of that movie.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah, I thought about... There are a lot... Like, I looked at other people's lists of underdog movies online, and there were a lot of them where I'm like, I don't think that's really an underdog story. Like, it is someone going up against, like, pretty rough odds, but it's not like... They're not necessarily someone who was, like, supposed to lose, per se, you know? But in this one, it's a black lawyer who basically runs a non-profit with a black client going up against all white everything in America's court system. Like, they are supposed to lose.
In Alabama.
Yeah. And so...
Or, is it South Carolina?
I can't remember. I'm pretty
it's
sure
in the South.
It was Mississippi, I think. I don't know. It was one of them. It might have been Alabama. It was in what is called the Deep South, which is not South Carolina. That's your Alabama, Mississippi.
I thought it was South Carolina.
All that kind of stuff. It might have been. I can't remember. But either way, yeah, they are absolutely underdogs, and it is an incredibly emotional movie, and they win. Spoilers. But you should still watch it because it's incredible.
Get them fat dubs.
Yeah.
And you're 5 and 4.
So my number 5, I thought about this one because this one was on a lot of lists, and the first time I saw it, I was like, I don't really think that's an underdog story. But then the more I thought about it, the more I was like, you know what, I think it is, and I really like that movie. And I made this list an hour ago and didn't want to think about it much more, so I said I'll make it my number 5. But it's going to be Spotlight. And it's a small group of investigative journalists, but they work for a massive newspaper. And all the articles I read try to make it sound like they were nobodies, but it's like they work for the Boston Globe, which is like probably like top 10 newspapers of all time. Like, newspapers don't matter anymore, but it did back then. And they were like their like crack team of investigative journalists. It wasn't like these guys were nobodies and like got handed, fluff piece stories, and then they were like broke this massive case. Anyways, they were going up against the entirety of the Catholic Church, which is a massive organization with a ton of secrets that spans the entire globe, and did not want this shit to come out. So, looking at it from that light, these journalists should not have won, and were going up against incredible odds, and they still managed to get the story out with evidence and proof and victim testimony and stuff like that. And it is also another excellent movie. So I went with that.
That's fair.
I couldn't really decide if I was going to make Just Mercy number 4 or this movie number 4, and then so I just picked one, but they could be interchangeable. But it was Little Giants. I freaking love this movie. I have this massive nostalgic connection to it. I watched it all the time when I was really little, and it is like a pure underdog story. And I was also very happy to put this one on my list because even though it is a sports movie, it's about like little kids, right? And it's like this may be the most popular, like next to The Sandlot, The Little Giants might be the most popular kids sports movies because Bad News Bears sucks. I just don't want to piss you off. But I will say this. People have forgotten Bad News Bears.
Yeah.
Like, it is not... Nobody thinks about Bad News Bears. Because the remake was shit.
Well,
and nobody thinks about the original. Which I bitch about people not remembering old movies all the time.
Just
it's
sticking
nothing
with
new. But
Disney movies. You're saying, on a wide scale...
Yeah.
I agree with you. On a wide scale...
Mm-hmm.
You think people like Little Giants more than the Mighty Ducks?
Yeah, absolutely.
Surprise, motherfucker!
The first Mighty Ducks?
Yeah, absolutely. People are forgetting that movie, too.
That had 2 sequels and a fucking TV show last year. People love Mighty Ducks.
Trash.
Anaheim.
Listen, you're not going to beat the annexation of Puerto Rico.
That's not trash, though. That's a bit harsh.
I hate hockey. I really just don't.
You really don't like the Mighty Ducks?
I don't like hockey at all.
Oh my goodness.
I think it's
Goldberg.
a silly sport.
But annexation Puerto Rico is fire.
Yeah. Yeah, the Stickum. Imagining the toilet paper roll flying through the air. But yeah, I really connected to that story a lot because I was a lot more like the kids that were on the Little Giants than I was like the kids who were on like the team that was supposed to be good.
Cowboys.
And I really appreciated that, and so that movie's kind of always stuck with me.
It's a really good pick.
Yeah.
That's a great movie. My number 3 is going to be Creed.
This is Zemeckis then.
Ooh, boy. Speaking of Bad News Bears, that's my number 2. You have all these kids who shouldn't play baseball. They throw them on one team, and parents are like, I want my kids to play. So they get a team, and they just put all the bad kids on one team, and they get a coach who used to be a former baseball player in his own right, Walter Matthau, coach Buttermaker, and he doesn't care. He's smoking fucking cigars. He's drinking beer and liquor while coaching these kids. he takes them to go clean pools because that's his day job and that's what he wants them to do. And then he gets a little fire under his ass because he sees how they are treated, and he has a real connection with these kids. One kid, he has an error during a game. He takes off his jersey because he ain't worthy of wearing it, and go climbs a tree and walk them out there, talks them down from the tree, and he just gets these kids to believe in themselves. And that's a really fun aspect to this film because it has heart and it also has comedy and it has the investment of the sports. And these gang of kids are just fucking funny to me, and 70s humor is hilarious to you, boy. So Bad News Bears had to make my list because they're underdogs and they make it to the finals. They lose, but they make it to the finals.
They overcame odds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think they won in one of the shitty sequels, but we're not going to talk about that.
Nice.
Number 2.
That was your number 2? Yeah, so my number 3 is Just Mercy. My number 2 is Moneyball. And I really like this movie a lot, but the underdog aspect of it is like so much different than you find in most other sports movies because it's not necessarily about it is about a team overcoming odds, and it even has some of those elements of like putting together a team of like not necessarily as talented players and still finding a way to win, but it's more so about fighting against a system and about fighting against tradition, which if you have ever tried to fight against the system or tried to fight against tradition, those are probably 2 of the hardest things in the entire world to fight against. And statistics would say you'll never beat them. But they do manage to beat them to an extent in this movie, and in the process kind of change the thinking of Major League Baseball from a manager's and a team owner's perspective for history. And so, yeah, they don't actually win the whole thing, but they took a team that wasn't winning anything and turned them into like a legitimately like solid playoff making team, using an incredibly unconventional system that everyone else in the game told them they were stupid for doing. And I dig that.
I'm honestly surprised you didn't shove Star Wars in here.
I really thought about it.
As a little farm boy Luke.
Well, it was kind of tough because it's like I could take all of Star Wars, but then I couldn't because what I really don't like about the sequel series is that they kind of sucked that underdog aspect out of it, in that like, no, all of these people like were ordained by the Force to be special. It's not really that just anyone can do it. Like, all of these people are related to each other, and that is why they are special. And so I like it, and I dislike it for that aspect, but I like it in the aspect that it does solidify that like the Force kind of does will things into existence, which makes a lot of other stuff in Star Wars make more sense, and is kind of how I always thought of it anyways. So if I took any of them, I would have taken the first one, and I did think about it, but
What else?
The first one has the most underdog aspect to it.
yeah.
It's like the first one of my franchise, which is my number 1, which is Rocky, a true underdog story. This man is fighting bums. He's fighting Spider Rico, and for a gimmick, so Apollo Creed can get a payday, another notch in the belt. He's like, I'll fight someone from Philadelphia since the event's going to be in Philadelphia, so we can still make this money, and I'll give the hometown guy a shot at the title. I'll beat him in a couple rounds, go home, easy money. Well, not Rocky. He has something to prove. Everyone thinks he's a bum. He doesn't want to be a loan shark anymore. He just wants to go toe-to-toe with the champ and prove that he's a good fighter. Prove to Mickey and all these people who doubted him. And these people will just get behind him and push him, and just gives you that underdog story of, if you put your mind to it, you can achieve goals. And in your mind, what success is, it may not be what everyone else's is, because he didn't win the championship, he loses. But he gains so much more with losing. So, with that being said, Rocky is the greatest underdog story of all time.
Facts.
And it is my number 1 because he shouldn't have even been in a ring with Apollo Creed, much less pushing him to the limit.
So my number one is, this is make us familiar, which is Creed, which is everything
Yes.
that Rocky is, but better. Because
Nematode.
Rocky didn't actually have anything going against him his entire life. It was just literally his own self-doubt. Like, he just doubted himself.
Whoa.
That was it.
He had mental health issues, and he was a poor. You say mental health
Why does that
as
matter?
an
Poor
important?
people make it in professional sports all the time.
Yeah, he
Like,
did make it in professional sports.
Yeah, I know, but that's not a hindrance. It's not.
was.
If you have talent, then you make it. If Rocky wasn't
And he made
lazy and put himself out there, then he probably would have been a professional fighter way before he actually was.
Man, Rocky to go.
Like, he had the talent. He kicked everybody he fought's ass.
Not everybody. You only saw one movie.
Like, he's already professional by the end of it. That's
Oh
like,
my
in terms
God.
of what I'm talking about, the first one's the only thing I needed to see. I understand there's a lot more of Rocky's story that I have not seen. But, like, literally, Rocky was an incredibly talented fighter. And, like, if he had put the time into trying to get himself promoted and took fighting seriously, like people wanted him to do from the beginning, he probably would have been a professional a lot sooner.
Bullshit.
That's not a knock against the movie. That's, like, just an observation.
Well, he's his own worst enemy, like that.
Right.
Like that song.
Okay, I
That
agree.
makes his underdog story even more important because that
No, it
makes him
doesn't.
relatable. A lot of people have self-doubt.
Yeah, that's true. But Creed, like, grew up without his fucking dad, basically spent a lot of time growing up without his mom, was in and out of juvie, was going down a completely wrong path. Like, Rocky wasn't even in trouble with the law. Like, he's
He was
just
a
shaking
loan shark.
motherfuckers down for money. He
It's the
doesn't get
70s.
arrested.
The
He
police
doesn't have
wasn't
all this
even
kind of
policing
stuff.
like that.
He's white. Like, I mean,
oh my, don't be racist.
Creed had to
You got enough
overcome
problems.
so much more shit. And even when he started fighting, now he's got to deal with whose son he is. So, like, he has his own self shit that he has to work through because he wants to be his own guy and not just his dad's son. But he also wants to do it for his father, so he has conflicting feelings in that aspect. Creed overcame a lot more than Rocky.
It's debatable.
And that's not that's not even part of the Creed is a better movie than Rocky argument. That is just like, if you observe both the characters, Adonis Creed overcame more than Rocky to become a professional fighter.
I'm not having this little. Why I love my son more than my nephew fight with you right now.
Okay.
But you are right that Creed deserves to be on the top 5 underdog movies list.
Mm-hmm.
It's unanimous because it's on both of our lists. But to me, that was the aspect that really set him apart and made it different from all the other movies I've seen. And a lot of movies, underdog stories in general. Because you kind of have like the little thing where, well, I'm the coach's son in Little Giants. But
With the girl.
it doesn't play that much of an aspect to it. Where Creed, that's a huge plot point of I need to be my own man and how that's getting to me.
Yeah.
Well, actually, there's a really good documentary, which I'll tell you about that later. So, to me, that added a new aspect to the underdog story I haven't seen. And because it's such a well-made movie, even though I've never been in that situation, it made me understand and flesh it out well enough where that made it a point where it's like, I want him to be his own man.
Yeah.
And get behind him for that.
Mm-hmm.
And again, he shouldn't be fighting the world champion like Rocky.
Yeah.
He's fighting bums
for
in
sure.
Mexico.
Yeah. It's a similar situation in that Conlon is about to go to prison and he wants a statement fight before he goes. And then doesn't the guy get hurt in that one too? That's why he can't fight who he was supposed to fight, which is exactly what happens to Rocky, right?
No, he
For whatever reason, Creed...
Colin breaks the dude's like face and like.
Oh yeah, they get in a
little
fight
argument,
ahead of time. Yeah. And Apollo Creed's opponent just got like hurt doing
Yeah,
something
he
else,
was
and so
training.
he had to find a replacement. So similar, but like
Yeah.
yeah.
Enough to differentiate.
Yeah.
But that's top 5 underdog movies from Nate and I. Let me know yours in the comment section below. Scroll back up, hit the like button, share the video, and subscribe.